Got it. Catch your breath. Welcome to the Hope for Cancer show, everyone. I'm Dr. Darrell Wolfe, and my honored guest today is Dr. Tony Jimenez. He's the founder and the director of the world-renowned Hope for Cancer clinics. I want everyone to understand this. Cancer is an emotion. Cancer is a frequency. Also understand you are not your mind, you are not your thoughts, and you are not the story that you tell yourself each and every day until you have truly taken the time to think about what you think about. I know you may not believe this, but I want you to give this some thought. Just give this some thought. Be easy about it. But I truly believe that only 2% of the population think. I think that 3% of the population thinks they think. And I believe that 95% of the population would rather die than think. Understand, you will be everywhere else and everyone else until you are in your point of power. And that is the present moment. How you think, how you act, the therapy you get, and the information that you download is shaping your life at this very moment. That's right. Every present moment, every moment is shaping your life. And your thoughts are everything. Now, before I invite my honored guest on, I just want you to think about something. The 3 most top words that were researched on the World Wide Web in 2018, what do you think they were? What do you think these 3 words were? Trust, truth, and misinformation. So that tells you where we're going. That tells you what's actually going on. So let's rise to our greatness together. Okay? Do you truly understand your mind is not yours until you have handpicked, created, and questioned every prominent thought that lives in that beautiful mind of yours? Never forget that your mind makes a terrible master when your thoughts are not yours, but an amazing servant when they're based on self-love. So let us wake up, show up, and grow up to our full potential. And listen, okay, the Hope for Cancer clinics, for me, they stand for helping others with their potential and evolving, okay? That's my own saying for Hope for Cancer clinics. And why don't we just welcome on Dr. Tony Jimenez. How you doing, sir?
Thank you, Dr. Wolfe. It's a pleasure to be here once again and share so much that we can say about emotions and cancer. And that was a brilliant introduction. Just today, Dr. Wolfe, I spoke with 2 patients. One of them was with us at Hope for Cancer in our Tijuana, Baja California clinic in 2016. February 2016, she came to us with stage 4 melanoma. And we know about melanoma, don't we? It's one of the cancers that could go anywhere and everywhere, very aggressive cancer. Usually the standard therapies like chemo, radiation, and surgery have very little to offer for melanoma. So this patient came to us in February of 2016, already with metastasis of melanoma in the lungs. And at that time, we identified that the grief, the fear that she had was, a big part of these metastatic lesions to the lung. And we worked hard with her at this. And now, 3 years later, the CAT scan, the MRI, all the scans showed no evidence of cancer. When at that time, she was given like 6 months, a year at the most. So this is just one example of how important dealing and helping the patients let go of these sudden traumatic shock experiences that's oftentimes, as you know, they're buried there, and the patient's even exhibiting less self-love, right? Just because of these traumas and fears that they had. So it's just one example that happened to me this morning when I called this lovely patient from Oregon in the US.
What a beautiful thing. And the stories will just keep on coming, as it's the whole reality here. And if I can just go to on a side note is this, is that the practitioner you go to is only going to be able to give you what he is or what she is. They can't give you what they're not. So, that's why I really love Dr. Jimenez's teachings, his writings, because it's based on growing consciously. You know, if we're not going to grow consciously, then I really don't think that there is any growing at all. What do you think, sir?
Absolutely. And when you talk about the writings, if I could say, my upcoming book is soon to be released. And look at the title, Hope for Cancer, 7 Key Principles to Remove Fear and Empower the Healing Journey. And that's what it's about. It's about removing that fear. It's about empowering that patients in that journey, because you're absolutely right, Dr. Wolf. You know, the conventional doctors, especially oncologists, with all due respect, uh, they don't have an answer. They don't know what to give their patients other than the standard 3 that we know about: the chemo, radiation, and surgery. And now, of course, there's immunotherapy coming up, which is even more toxic, and gene targeted therapy that it's in its infancy state right now. So the doctor does not have a viable option. So he doesn't even believe in himself for the success of the patient. And so how does that make the patient feel?
Well, you know, if I can tell you about a story, and this story just happened 3 days ago today. Okay, counting today. I had a patient call me up, and this patient has melanoma. And guess what? He's also the head oncologist of a very big medical hospital. And I want to say something. You know, I understood when he called me up, and he understood it too. That and we got into a conversation, and it kind of went that way. And he says, "Are you ready for this?" Do you know what he said to me? We're not taught on actually how to treat cancer.
Um,
So,
well,
I mean, that's kind of a loaded statement. And, you know, I'm not putting him down because he does what he does well. And it's not that surgery is never needed, it's not that other therapies are never needed. Okay. It's just that they're not taught in the realm of dealing with emotions. They're not taught in the realm of dealing with nature's greatest tools, and then bringing in medical science like you do. Like you're so many pronged, but you know, you're emotional, you deal with the emotional aspect, you deal with the nutritional aspect, you deal with the detox aspect, and then you deal with all types of advancements in natural phytonutrients, but you also will deal with the good things that the medical system has to offer to help people along their journey so that they don't have as much suffering, because sometimes surgery is needed, sometimes things need to be done, but you know, it's knowing when to do them and the right things to do so that we don't have to end up feeling like the patient is terrorized, right?
yeah, and that was so important what you said, because in this upcoming book, and I had over 20 endorsements, people from 12 countries, doctors from 12 countries read the manuscript and they endorsed it. 3 or 4 of them, which are oncologists. The foreword was written by an hematologist oncologist from Brazil who studied bone marrow transplant in Paris, France, and well reputable guy. And what they love about this book, Dr. Wolf, is, as you're just saying, the first chapter is called Healing the Whole Person, Spirit, Soul, and Body. And that is what truly is missing in conventional and traditional cancer therapies.
Yeah, if you want to heal the body, you got to feed the spirit.
Hmm.
And once people grasp onto that, and they understand that, you know, they have to become the light for themselves,
Right.
and that's so. Tell us some of the other things. Why don't you just take a walk through your book and just give us some of the chapter titles so that people will know what they're actually going to be reading and how that's going to benefit them. Would you do that?
I would be honored to do that, because this is 25 plus years of working in the integrative oncology field, not only in Mexico where our clinics are, but around the world. So I dedicate this book first and foremost to God, then to, of course, my parents, my family, and the mentors I've had throughout the year, and most importantly, the patients, because we learn so much from the patients. And the first section of the book is called "The Fundamentals of Cancer and Healing." And the first chapter within that section is healing the whole person, as we just mentioned, because oftentimes in traditional conventional medicine, we're addressing the cancer in the patient, not the patient with the cancer. So when we're talking about the fundamentals of cancer and healing, is exactly that, Dr. Wolfe, is looking at the fundamental characteristics or features of cancer, not just shooting in chemotherapy to bombard and kill destroy the cancer cells, but you're also harming the normal cells, as we all know. So this is looking at the features, the characteristics of cancer, and focusing on that. Some of them are an acidic environment, inflammation, the emotional, these seven key principles that you were describing. And then we talk about what causes cancer? What are the characteristics of cancer? Why does cancer express itself? Because most of the time people believe it's genetic. If your mother had it, your father, your uncle, your sister, your brother, then you're going to get it and you're doomed. We know, of course, that that's not true. Only 2 to 5% of all cancers are genetic in nature. So we have to look at what's called epigenetic. And then to wrap up the first section of the book, that chapter is called Novel and Safe Methods to Screen, Diagnose, and monitor or track cancer. This is so important because blood tests and PET scans and CAT scans and MRIs, they're only going to manifest abnormalities when the cancer is already advanced, when the inflammation is already advanced. But there are systems, there are techniques and technology that we could see, for example, circulating cancer cells before they go to the lung or to the liver or to the brain. We could screen for other parameters bioenergetically that we can, keep a more of an eye on the development and the progress of cancer. So this first section, the fundamentals of cancer and healing, Dr. Wolfe, are so important in understanding, right? Because we know a lot about cancer now, and we have a lot of tools. And this is a beautiful time that we could tell patients there is hope. There is hope for cancer, and there's many things that we can do.
This is the first time that we've actually gone over your book together. You've mentioned that you were writing one before, but basically what this book is sounding like is 101 for cancer patients or 101 for cancer caregivers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know a lot of people aren't going to buy it. I mean, there will be some people that'll be fearful, but a lot of people don't think about prevention. So everybody out there that's listening to this show, you have to understand something. You're not buying this book because you have cancer or think you're going to get it. You're buying this book to empower yourself because you have to understand something. Think about it. A quarter century, okay, that Dr. Jimenez has been in the trenches. So understand something. If this book can treat cancer, then it can treat anything from constipation to cancer, because you have to understand something. Everything is about vibration. Everything is about vitality. And if it's able to turn around mutations in the body and be able to change the pH around, be able to bring up the oxygen, be able to bring on the nutritional content, then it's a book that you want to read, and you want to take and extract different things out of that book so that you can start making your journey. And before we go any farther, do you mind? I want to talk to you about something. And I did a one-a-day
Mm-hmm.
on this, and I did a one-a-day on my Facebook and Instagram. And the one-a-day was this, is that and you can disagree with me, okay? I know that sometimes I over-dramatize things. So, but what I said is that when it comes to cancer, first of all, for most, whether they want to admit it or not, the subconscious believes it because it's been sold that way, that cancer is a death sentence. But the reality is when somebody gets cancer in the majority of families, okay, the family becomes the cancer. I'm not trying to put anybody down here, but I want you to understand something. The fear that you feel for that loved one because you don't know what to do. You don't even know how to take gentle baby loving steps for that person. And you don't know that when you come in with a terrorist look and a look of the end of the world's coming, that's the worst thing that you can serve up to that beautiful cancer patient that is called a family member or friend. And the reality is, if you don't know how to get yourself together emotionally and you don't know how to help them take steps nutritionally or detox or where to go and how to check things out that will be done in a loving way, then you are a part of the problem. So the first thing that happens when I deal with any type of cancer patients, which I know you do, don't you find that the family can be the toxic part of the cancer because of them not understanding the options and not understanding that cancer is not a death sentence. Cancer is a body that is out of harmony and on many levels.
Yes. So true. I mean, we could talk so much on the topics that you covered. And I remember a patient that came to us, a young lady, maybe 43 years old. She had thyroid cancer. So she comes to the clinic with her mom, who's about 20, 22 years older than her. And as I'm doing the consultation, Dr. Wolfe, the mom is answering all the questions. The patient was not saying anything. And so obviously right away, I captured that and I told the mom, please let your daughter answer and speak for herself and what ails her and so forth. But what I recognized so quickly was that, as you just said, the mom was the cancer for this patient. And so after the consultation, politely, I asked the mother to leave and spoke with the daughter. And I said, what's going on? Tell me a bit more now that your mom's not here. She said, I have never in my 43 years told my mom no, meaning that she's just been obedient to her mom, whatever the mom wants to do and say. So I told the patient, for you to have a successful outcome, the first thing we have to do, you're just arriving at the clinic, you have to tell your mom lovingly and caringly to go home, because I recognize that this was a big problem of her thyroid cancer. A few days later, she comes to my office and she's so happy. I saw like she had dropped like 100 kilos from her shoulders. And she said, I asked my mom to leave and she went to the airport. And I said, well, how does that make you feel? She said, well, for the first time, now I could breathe. I feel like I could breathe freely. And guess what? This happened 6, 7 years ago, and this patient's completely healed. And then, of course, we have to work on the mom because, the patient has to go home eventually back to Atlanta, where she was from, Georgia. And so, absolutely. And another thing, Dr. Wolfe, we had a Dr. Stryker, Jeannie Stryker. She's an interventional oncologist here in San Diego. And she wrote this as one of the endorsements. She says, true spiritual health holds an important place in the comprehensive process of healing. Dr. Jimenez logically gives us an insight to the spirit, soul, body connection. And this is important. His principles are timeless, a must read for every seeker of wellness. And exactly what you said. So in this book, this is not only for those that have cancer, but it's for the family members, it's for those that want to decrease the risk of getting cancer. And it touches those 7 key principles that throughout my life I've focused on and given us such good results. So totally agree with what you're saying. We need to empower the family members and know that this is cancer is not a death sentence. Often I wonder why people say cancer is not a death sentence, because cancer is just a word. Cancer is not even a sentence. So maybe we should say cancer is not a death word, right? And I know you'll resonate with this because you're good on how you choose your words, Dr. Wolfe.
Yes, and they mean everything, don't they?
They
I
do.
mean,
They
we,
do.
we know that everything starts off as an image, and every word holds an image, doesn't it?
Yes, yes.
You
And that's
say,
important what you say, because talking about emotions in cancer, we all know that there's two parts of the autonomic nervous system. There is the parasympathetic, which typically is the one that calms us down, and there's the sympathetic, and that's the fight or flight. And most cancer patients, if not all, they're in that sympathetic overdrive. They're in fight or flight, and guess what? The emotions, the memories, the traumas are stored in our autonomic nervous system, right? So then, no doubt, no reason, there's obviously why these patients are in high sympathetic overdrive, because these traumas, these conflicts, this negative stuff is stored in that autonomic nervous system, and they're in fight or flight all the time. So, as you said, how can a body be in harmony? And remember, harmony is first we have coherence. Like a laser that's coherent means that the frequency is just one. It's a coherent laser and they're all in phase. It's one phase. And then from coherence, you have congruency. Congruency is when everything is in agreement, right? It's congruent. And then that way we have harmony, and the body is harmonious, it's out of chaos, and things are flowing well. The body can heal, the body can prevent from getting chronic disease. So just a few things that I teach patients is these four things. You have to know your what for, that's the purpose, the why, and then the how works itself out. But start with the what for, and the why, and then the how works itself out. Your therapy will be effective, and cancer will be a thing of the past.
Absolutely. And if I can backtrack just a little bit, when you were talking, here's one. I don't know if you've ever thought about this, Dr. Jimenez, but I believe that a dysfunctional belief that really we lodge it somewhere, mostly in the subconscious, because our subconscious only works off prominent beliefs, and it doesn't care if they're dysfunctional or functional. They're just going to do them. So that's why we have to become aware. But once you do a dysfunctional belief enough, it becomes a habit. And
Mhm.
where you have your subconscious mind, where we hold our beliefs, we have our unconscious mind, which is the human body. And when a dysfunctional belief becomes a habit, every cell in your body has agreed that it will opt into it. So
Yeah,
it will opt into that dis-ease, right?
right.
And that's why the longer and the stronger the trauma and the drama, the longer and the stronger the disease will take a hold on a physical level.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure if the viewers can see this, but this is exactly what you're talking about. It goes from the psychic, the spirit, it goes to the brain, that unconscious or conscious, and then it goes to the body. And that's when we have the cancer formation. So we have to work back into that unconscious level and bring those hidden traumas, those buried feelings onto the surface so that we can let them go. And then, as I said, cancer has no reason of being there.
So here's the deal. You can cut out the tumor, but you didn't cut out the thought that created it. So you look at it in a different way, where you believe that you should bring up the vibratory level of the spirit, the soul, and the physical body, and then create that union.
Yeah, yeah, because at the end of the day, everything is information, and the cells are transferring that information from one cell to another cell. And remember, the cell is the basic unit of life. Cells make tissues, tissues make organs like your heart, your spleen, your kidneys. The organs make the systems. So all these organs make the digestive system. These other organs make the hormonal or endocrine system. And then all these systems together make the body. So one of the failures in treatments is that they're focused on the organ, the end stage or the end location of the disease process. What we need to focus is go back to the cells. And at the cell level, wow, right? All this information, all this frequency, vibration that you're talking about, Dr. Wolf, that's really where it starts at the cell level.
Yeah, I believe it. And there's also something else that I don't think that people really think about. and that is that their 50 trillion cells all have consciousness. They
Mhm.
all have their own mind.
That's
You
right.
know, where truly is the brain? The
Right.
brain of the human body is in every cell.
Yes, and remember also one of the cofactors in chronic disease, including cancer, are pathogens. Candida, viruses, parasites, bacteria, all these also have consciousness in a way and have thoughts and mess with your own thoughts. So part of the healing protocol in anyone with chronic disease is to look at these pathogens and not allow that negative energy and those. I don't know if we could call it consciousness, but these organisms are creating something in your body that's, leading to more and more disease every day. We know Epstein-Barr virus. We know about H. pylori, of course, Candida, and worms and parasites causing a lot of havoc in the body. So I'm wondering if that even goes back to beyond the physical. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I really believe that, I'm feeling low. I'm feeling down today. I'm
Yeah.
depressed.
Mhm.
You can't have an emotional um, negative feeling without having. Well, remember that we know that E equals MC squared.
Mhm.
Energy creates mass. And what you think really matters because it creates matter.
Mhm.
Yes.
I like that. And when we're talking about the emotional aspect of cancer, we're talking about the spiritual aspect of cancer. We like to also include the behavior aspect of cancer. At our clinic at Hope4Cancer Treatment Centers, we call it the BEST program: behavioral, emotional, spiritual therapy. And when we look at behavior, as I mentioned in the book, we have to look at how the patient is thinking. What's the thinking process? Um, uh, Confidence levels, how organized, logical they are, how much they're loving themselves, if they're generous, because as they embark in a healing protocol or treatment or program, these behavioral characteristics become so important in the outcome. Will they be able to make the necessary changes? Leave the Doritos and the Pepsis and the pizzas and the ice cream, right? And so this is more than emotional and spiritual. This is behavioral. So once we have these three components, wow, significant paradigm shifts, and that's when you get the so-called miracles or spontaneous remissions.
Yeah, and when you were saying about that, about leaving the Doritos and all the other things behind, if you look at the word familiar,
Hmm.
family, are you going to be able to leave some of your family behind? I'm not talking about getting rid of them out of the house, but are you going to be able to leave their beliefs behind because they're not going to be motivated to make the change? Because let's be honest, what do you think, Dr. Jimenez? How many people do you know, okay, actually make a change before they desperately need the change?
It's the example of how many people want to change, right? And they all raise their hand, and then you introduce the changes. How many people want to do these things to change? Hardly anyone raises their hand, right? So it's I very very important what you're mentioning. These changes, and there's an old saying: if you don't change, you die, right? And even in business and treatment developments, we want to change. We want to develop new process, new procedures, new strategies, new therapies, new products, because if not, then the old will not be enough. And the same thing for the patient. They must change. They must grab the bull by the horns, as I say, and really make those changes. The example with the Doritos and the other stuff is not a far-fetched example. This is what we are seeing daily at our clinic when patients leave. Unfortunately, when the cleaning crew comes and takes care of the room for the next patient, they find hidden in the drawers or the closet those things. M&Ms, Doritos, beer sometimes, tequila because we're in Mexico. So imagine, and that's it at the clinic in a controlled environment. What happens when they go home? And then they said, oh, I went to Hope4Cancer and the treatment didn't work. Well, I mean, you have to really do your due diligence and be compliant.
Yeah, and then you know what? I mean, I'm sure you touch on it in the book, but you know what? You're only going to pick the care, the self care, for the amount of self love that you actually have for yourself. And the other thing is this, you know, people need to understand something. If they want a drastic change in their life, they need to drastically change.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
As simple as that. And that seems like a nice, poem, short one sentence poem by Dr. Wolfe, because he has a lot of those. They're not poems. I'm not sure what we call them, but, things that rhyme. And that's so important. So, sorry, go ahead.
I didn't say anything. Go ahead, Dr.
Okay.
Manis.
So the second section of the book is where we talk specifically on the 7 key principles of cancer therapy. And just to briefly talk about them, they're non-toxic cancer therapies, the immune system. We know of how important the immune system. And please, any listeners that are watching this or will watch the archive show, it's so important to take into consideration that these 7 key principles are a must, a must. These are not optional. They're a must for anyone with cancer currently, that are in remission, or that are undergoing active cancer treatment. So you have to do non-toxic cancer therapy to support those toxic therapies that you may or may not be receiving. The immune system, we need to upregulate the immune system because every day there's more factors that are depressing our immune system. One of the most important ones, and it's the topic of this show, is the emotions. And Dr. Wolfe, in your experience, the emotions and the immune system, so powerful, right?
Well, yeah, I just, when people come to us and, you know, they come from all over, they come here thinking that the physical aspect is just going to be touched on, but you can't do that. You
Hmm.
know, I know that there's a lot of clinics, and well, most of the clinics only deal with the physical, but for me to only deal with the physical and not to touch on the emotional, just like your clinic does, Dr. Manis, you know what? You wouldn't have it any other way because you know that you are not giving people the hope that they really deserve.
Right. And specifically, how the emotions affect many things, more not just the body as a whole, but the individual or independent functions of the body. In this case, the immune system. If we have negative emotions, toxic emotions, this is going to make you more acidic. If you're more acidic, then the immune system can't thrive and can't do what it's meant to do. So, see how this is sort of like a cascade effect, a domino effect. Taking care of the emotions helps the acidity, which helps you to have a better immune system, which now the immune system can attack those cancer cells and keep you healthy. The next key principle is what I coined in this book. It's called the Garden Food Plan. And the Garden Food Plan is introduced in this book and will be a separate book due out next year where we focus only on the garden food plan. And so nutrition is so important. And I'm a believer that the closer we stick to the garden, the healthier our bodies will be. And so I'm not an advocate of these ketogenic diets that, are allowing the patients to have pork and all this red meat and so forth, even if it's supposedly grass fed and free range and all this. We really must think very carefully when we're consuming these meats. Any experience on your part, Dr. Wolfe, with ketogenic diets?
Well, I got to tell you, I try to embrace everything lovingly as possible.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's many different types of diets and very different types of values out there. And you know what? I'm going to tell you something right now, and I don't like to get into it too much because it's actually becoming a controversial topic out
Yes.
there, if you can believe
Yes.
this. And
Yes.
you gotta watch yourself what you say. And I'm not
Mm.
saying that I'm watching myself what I say, because I'll tell you honestly, this keto thing is going to fly right back in our face if it's not based on a keto plan that is a whole plant based diet. Okay, if it's not based on that, it is going to come and get us. And I'll tell you something: it'll take 5 years maybe, but it's going to come back to bite us. You know where?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that, this is just one other thing that you and I are in synchrony about, because when I coined the garden food plan is that if you want to do a keto diet, but base it on the garden, plant-based, as you just said, right? So amen to that.
And
Uh,
if Dr. Jimenez, if I can say something, everybody, I want you to understand something. We are not advocating vegetarianism, because you can be a vegetarian and eat peanut butter and tacos and pop. Do you understand? We're
mhm.
talking about a whole plant-based lifestyle that is high vibrational and is just it follows the law of nature. It follows the law of our creator. It's all about vibration.
That's right. All about that. I totally agree with that. And then detoxification is the next key principle. And we believe that in order to heal, we have to detox. In order to live longer, we have to detox. In order for those telomeres at the end of the chromosomes that are like the longevity part of our chromosomes, for them to be longer, we have to detox. So, because this is a segment on the emotional, detoxing the emotions is super critical. And I've often been quoted to say a negative thought can kill you faster than a bad germ. So let's start with detoxifying our negative thoughts, our negative lifestyles, our negative emotions, our conflicts, or drama, our relationships. You said something earlier that I want to give another example, because in all these 25 plus years of treating patients all over the world, I have many stories and many examples, but this one hits the point. We had a patient that came to the Cancun clinic with breast cancer that had metastasized to the liver and to the bone. I'm sorry, to the liver and to the lung. And so she had her treatment. She went home. She was coming every 3 weeks for follow up, doing well. And I happened to be at the Cancun clinic, and I saw her. I saw her sitting there, and obviously I recognized her from 2 years ago. And I asked her to tell the group of patients and the companions that were going through the initial 3 weeks of treatment what was the one thing that she had to do when she went home to enhance the treatments and the possibility of her recovery from a stage 4 breast cancer metastasis to the liver and to the lung. And she said something that was like a wow. She said, I had to tell my friend, my dear friend of 25 years, that we had to separate from each other in a loving, caring way. And this was her friend of many years who was also a nurse. So the friend was saying, Pam, you should be getting more chemotherapy, more this and that. Why are you going to, holistic, alternative, integrative center and so forth? So for Pam, this was a toxic relationship. This was a toxic relationship. And Pam identified that very quickly in her healing journey, that she had to separate herself from her friend. And that's what happened. But guess what, Dr. Wolf? I saw Pam about 3 months ago at the clinic for another checkup. And who was there with her? That friend. So you know how things change in life, and so they're back as friends, and the friend respects her, and everything is good. And she was at the clinic now to learn more as a nurse, right? So what a beautiful story.
Yeah, and you know what? The moral of the story is hold the line when it
Mm.
comes to self love
Yes.
or self destruct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And for her to love herself and to recover and not kind of like sabotaging herself, like you said, self destruct, she had to do this. So
Yeah, but look what she did. She gave her friend the best gift of ever. Her friend was actually able to set herself free from the dogma of doing something that is really violent and aggressive to the body. And I think we just lost Dr. Jimenez. So we'll try to see if we can bring him back on. And if anybody out there has any questions or they'd like to call us at 888-570-9445, now's the time to call in. Okay? All right? And while we're waiting to see if he comes back on, understand something. Any of these shows that we have on Doc of Detox, okay, show.com, like even Dr. Tony's show, you can share this to other people around the world, because when you send people to YouTube to watch this show, to Dr. Darrell Wolfe or Doc of Detox YouTube channel, you're able to actually, they can watch the show in their own language and subtitles, and they can make it go as fast or as slow as they want. So that's really important. So really share our shows. And while we're waiting for him to come on, just know that we usually have other shows, and we have them every week. And you can go to docofdetoxshow.com and see our schedule. Okay. And for those of you who like to be kept up on things, you can come to Facebook. We do a one a day every day on an emotional level mainly, and to uplift people and to show them that it's okay to love yourself, to honor yourself, to respect yourself, and then to become that light for your family. Understand something, we have to break away from the corporate world. Okay, we got to break away from the systems. All right, and understand something. I hope it's not always like this, but whatever the majority of the population is doing, stop it right now. Wherever the majority of the population is shopping, stop that right now. You know what? You've got to take a look at what you're putting in when you're shopping, what you're putting in the cart. Go and take a look in your cupboards today. Take a look at the food. Look at how fast junk food goes in your house. Look how fast it leaves, okay? And then you'll see the addictions that people have. And understand something, whether you want to believe this or not, we will actually gravitate to food, okay, that gravitates to us. We're like magnets. If you are low vibrational in the way that you love yourself, take care of yourself, if you disrespect yourself and down yourself, or you're in depression, you'll see why you're attracting toxic foods, GMOs, processed foods. Look, we are light energy beings, and as soon as we can restore the light into our cells, okay, and infuse that light back into our cells, into our spirit, that is when we're going to have a healing. Look, the biggest problem that I know that Dr. Jimenez sees is when people come to his clinic. I've been there. I've seen these people. When they first come to his clinic, when they come even to our clinic, they come with the fear all over them. They forgot who created them. They forgot that their body has the ability to heal itself and to restore itself. Look at what you think about yourself right now, and your potential as a human being is so minuscule to what it really is. Look, whether you want to believe this or not, the more dysfunctional you are, the more money that is and the more health that is going to be harvested from you. You've got to bring that back. Now, how are you going to bring that back? How are you going to get self-value? How are you going to restore self-respect for yourself? How are you going to lovingly hold the line and honor yourself when your family and your friends say no? How are you going to make healthy choices? Like saying, you know what? Okay, I have to maybe spend my own money here, but I want to do it naturally and go to a natural clinic, a health clinic that is going to love and respect me and deal with my body that way. Do you ever wonder why insurance companies won't pay for natural health? Well, because pharmaceutical corporations, they control everything that runs through insurance companies. You know, understand something. You're going to have to take it upon yourself. What are you worth? You know, what are you worth? What will you do and what will you invest into yourself to make the right decisions? I can tell you right now, I don't know what the odds are with Dr. Jimenez, but I'll tell you, I bet you there's a lot of people that have gone through chemo, radiation, and surgery by the time they get to him. And then by the time they get to his Hope4Cancer clinics, boy, you know what? Now think about it. How many people go down there and they've been through all this toxic therapy and then they still get the successes that they do? I think it's amazing. Your body wants to live. Your body wants to live. It wants to thrive, even after it's been through all this. This is what?
Can you hear me, Dr. Wolfe?
Yeah. So this is why, yes, I can. This is why we have to make healthier choices. And yes, you're going to have to ask yourself what you're worth. What is your value? And I'll tell you, it's everything. And understand something. People will say to me, well, Dr. Wolfe, you know what? It's going to cost me money and it's going to put me into debt. Well, who cares? You'll be alive to pay it off.
That's right.
And that's the bottom line. And you can think, well, you know, he's just saying that for Dr. Jimenez. Well, no, I'm not just saying it for him. I'm saying it for you. Where's your value? Anyways, I just decided I would take over the show because you just left me. No, I'm kidding. But why don't you just start where we left off and welcome back.
Well, thank you. But I just want to, support or confirm what you said, Dr. Wolfe. 92% of the patients that come to Hope4Cancer are in stage 4, meaning they failed conventional therapy, or when they were diagnosed, they were already in stage 4 and they weren't even offered chemo.
They were offered this. Why don't you go home, get your affairs in order,
Exactly.
and make sure that you do a will. Okay, so that's the one. But anyways,
Right.
Go ahead.
Right. And of these patients, we did a third-party evaluation. So we hired someone external to us, and they looked at 365 random charts. And what they found, remember, these patients' prognosis is less than 6 months at this time when they come to us. At 1 year.
Excuse me. I hope you're all hearing this, okay?
Yes.
Less than 6 months when they come.
Yes.
So understand something.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
Don't wait that long.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Amen. So at 1 year, 78.9%, don't quote me on the exact decimal point, but 78.9% were alive in 1 year. In 2 years, 76% were alive in 2 years. And now we're in the 3rd year of tracking these patients. If you compare that to National Cancer Institute, SEER data, surveillance, end stage, and epidemiology result. This is the marquee, statistical information from the National Cancer Institute, NCI. Their results say for 20 to 25%. But they're not including stage 4 in those statistics. That's just stage 1, 2, and 3. So this is tremendous what people like Darrell, what we're doing at Hope4Cancer, when we're really focusing on the whole body approach, we can and do resolve these advanced cancers. And the goal of my book, Hope4Cancer, the 7 principles to remove fear and empower the healing journey, is that you are educated, you're empowered, as the word says, as the subtitle says, to make smart choices, to love yourself, and to share this information. So it's not only It's sort of like a reference book. There's 432 pages to this book, and it's not boring, but I think anyway. But
Well,
very important.
well, yeah, and the thing is that everybody needs to understand that this is not a book about creating a health revolution. This is a book that wants to create a health evolution, because whether you want to believe this or not, we have gone backwards in time, and this is about evolving consciously and becoming your authentic real self. That's what I've noticed about your book.
Yeah, Dr. Enio Bartolome, oncologist, gynecologist from Italy, from Milan, Italy, wrote the following. In Hope for Cancer, Dr. Jimenez shows a broad and in depth knowledge of the human system, allowing him to assess the interactions that take place in our bodies and transforming himself into an internist externist. That means, of course, not only looking at the outward expression of the human body, but the inner one. And he goes on, he has provided us with a paradigm that, in my opinion, makes him a leading light. So the point that I want to make is that we have to have the knowledge of the human body as a system and not as a part, that we're removing the breast, we're removing the tumor in the lung or the tumor in the liver. The body is a system that has to work, as we said earlier, Dr. Wolfe, in harmony, and this can happen.
Well, that's what he was just saying in his quote now about transforming. And
Yes.
that's what Hope for Cancer is about. It's about transformation. It's
Yeah.
about transforming yourself into your authentic true self, which can only be in a healthy state.
Yes, and talking about the truth, one of your countrymates, Dr. Robert Banner, who has more letters after his name than a reputable doctor in the Toronto area, he says it has been said there is no truth. That is not correct. In a world of chaos, there is meant to be order and reason. We are facing a tsunami of cancer, and Dr. Jimenez brings order and truth to what is a threatening and confusing circumstance for patients, family, and friends. One of my favorite verses is faith is the assurance of what we hope for, the certainty of things that we do not see. It is my hope that these pages hold answers to your questions and bring your faith and hope and bring you faith and hope for your future. So this is Dr. Banner, a Canadian friend of mine from the Toronto area.
So
We already,
when is
yeah.
your book coming out?
It's coming out at the end of March 2019, so in about a month and a half from this recording.
And where can people purchase it?
They can purchase it at hope4cancer.com, the number four.
Yeah.
They could purchase it on amazon.com. And we're also putting together a website called hope4cancerbook.com. And this is to go beyond the book with more teaching. So we really want this 7 key principles to expand into much more personal and private information for the individual. So we want to go deeper into the hows of treatment and therapy, discover nutraceuticals, read up-to-date articles on the advancement of integrative oncology. So this is a evolution, as you said, Dr. Wolfe. And please look out for Hope for Cancer.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we know, and we're going to help to promote that because everybody should be. And please, everybody that's watching the show, let people know that the book is coming. And what I'd like you to do is start reading the book. And then Dr. Jimenez, he's on here once a month. So by the time, well, when is it coming out again?
End of March.
End of March. Okay, all right. So we'll be on one more time before we come, but maybe we can talk a little bit more about the book. And we're going to be back here in 4 weeks. So I'd like everybody who's watching the show to let everybody know we're back here in 4 weeks on a Thursday. All right. Okay. And get your questions. Let people know about the show because we're going to be talking and we're going to be talking to you and we're going to be answering all of the things that create fear. Remember something, we want to get rid of the fear. And when you get the right information, fear will leave. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about right now before we?
Well, the next topic that we mentioned on the website for the March 14th Doc of Detox show with Hope4Cancer is 5 influences that alter the cancer terrain. And that is so huge because that cancer terrain is affected by fear, it's affected by many of the things that we talked about today. You know, the toxic relationships, the poor immune system, lifestyle. So we're going to be bringing into the next show information about that cancer terrain. How can we avoid having a cancer terrain, and how can we reverse it if someone has already developed that sort of environment that led to their cancer? So I really love these shows with you, Dr. Wolfe, and please, anyone that's watching, please share the word, spread the news, and remember, there is always hope for cancer.
Yes, there definitely is. There's hope for cancer, and there is definitely hope for love. So
Hmm.
let's all surrender to love, and let it just fill our hearts up. And I want to thank Dr. Tony Jimenez again for being on my show. And he has such a busy schedule. You know, every time I try to get in touch with him, well, I'm in Japan, or I'm in Europe, or I'm over here, I'm over there. So, is there anything else that's coming up for you? Anywhere else you're going, or anything you're doing, or anything people might want to know?
Oh, yes, so much. We've developed some very interesting and powerful immunotherapies that we have about 50 patients on so far with exceptional results. This is called Salgina, and it's a combination of different immunomodulators that are totally natural and healthy for the body and even for the good cells. So that's a big development. We just finished a conference here in San Diego this past weekend, beginning of March 2019. It was a brilliant conference. We had over 130 doctors from various parts of the world. And we indulged more in the use, Dr. Wolf, of sound and light to cancer. Cancer situations and other diseases. So more coming up. I could go on and on about different developments, but as I said, if someone has cancer now in 2019, we're prepared. We have the technology, we have the tools, we have the therapies, we have the information that can really help you and turn this around. Another of the calls I made this morning was a patient in just 13 months, her small cell lung cancer is totally gone, complete remission. The oncologist back home in Oregon wants to know what she's doing because these patients have 6 to 12 months at most, no matter what they do. And she's in her 13th month and no evidence of disease. So, aggressive cancers like small cell lung cancer can be contained, can be reversed. And we're just so happy to be part of this evolution.
That's right. Keeping the family together.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well,
Mhm.
thank you. And again, make sure that you get your questions together, everyone, and join us in 4 weeks. Don't miss the next show. And if you want to go check out the schedule when Dr. Jimenez will be on again, go to docofdetoxshow.com. I want to thank you, my dear friend. And, I want to say this to you, Dr. Jimenez. Think about this, everybody out there. What do you think it takes to be a cancer specialist, and then to actually be a cancer specialist dealing in the natural health field? What do you think it would take to do that? Well, it would take a braveheart hero. Thank you, my friend, and thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Dr. Wolf. We love you.
I
We
love
love
you
your
too.
mission and we love this show. and let's continue spreading the information. Thank you.
God bless you. And God bless everyone that was watching us today. Have the best day of your life.